Welcome back to the Friday Fishing Forecast. Today is May 31st, 2024. The weather this weekend, they're predicting a bunch of storms just like this entire past 10-day forecast has been. Right now we're in luck. The wind is supposed to be showing around between 5, 6, 7 miles an hour. With Caddo Lake being the largest cypress forest in the world, typically the wind isn't a problem over there, but with the predicted winds being 5 to 6 mile an hour, it might help you decide which lake you want to go fish at this weekend. You need to be very weather aware because they're calling for thunderstorms, scattered thunderstorms throughout the weekend, and that could be problematic if you're out on the boat and the wind starts shifting and getting up really high as these fronts come in. Back to Caddo Lake, we just finished up the full moon phase for May. It was last weekend. All the perch that we're staging to the bedding areas are on beds now. They're actually spawning, which has got your bass really excited. If you're thinking about bass fishing Caddo Lake, start thinking about that shallow water again. The water level is still murky to muddy right now because of all the rain we've been getting. For the bass, think about your topwater frogs and then any of your Carolina rigs, your Texas rigs with the worms, that kind of stuff. Start thinking darker colors because it is still very muddy. The perch are still doing really well on worms and crickets underneath the bobber in that 2 to 4 foot range of water. And then if you can get shallower up on the beds, probably increase your odds over there as well. One of the wonderful things is, here's some great news, the crappie bite is starting to pick up really well over at Caddo, and the water level that most people are catching in is 2 to 5 foot of water. That should help you figure out where the crappie are at because there isn't a lot of 5, 6, and 7 foot depths of water in Caddo Lake to begin with, so that should help you narrow down your search where the crappie are at. They're doing really well on jigs and minnows also. With the crappie bite picking up, we're also starting to see some larger flatheads being caught out of Caddo Lake. As we continue into June, I think the fishing forecast for Caddo Lake is just going to continue to get better. I believe the catfish are going to start biting better and better, so start thinking about some of your bigger baits for Caddo Lake, and you can start catching those large guys. We've had a few of them pop up on the Caddo Lake Fishing Report. It's another Facebook group that I'm a member of, and it's a great resource for figuring out where you need to be fishing on Caddo Lake. And then also anytime, yesterday for example, we had a little mini tornado pop up over here in Marshall that was headed to the lake. I'll always try to get on there as quick as I can and show you radar, that kind of stuff. It just gives you another way to stay weather aware, especially if you're out on the water. Again, depending on my internet service, I may or may not be able to do that, but I'm always going to try to help spread the word and keep everybody safe out on the water. Next up, we're going to travel over to Lake of the Pines. Lake of the Pines is still about 3 foot high right now. The catfish are still doing really well in that 2 to 4 foot range. Similar circumstances, Caddo Lake, a lot of these perch that have been staging are actually sitting on beds now. The water level's warmed up. We've had the full moon, and a lot of you that follow the full moon know that that's just going to be another time that the perch are going to go ahead and start spawning. The crappie bite, again, is about that 15 to 24 foot of water. There's a lot of places on Lake of the Pines that you can find crappie. Over on the Lake of the Pines Fishing Report, I pretty regularly see people asking questions where they can take their kids, their grandkids, and fish from the bank. If you guys are unaware, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department have actually got a map of the entire state, and they have a map with GPS coordinates that shows all the different places where they've put fish attractors out. A lot of these are artificial fish attractors, which aren't going to break down like the Christmas trees. With the perch getting up in the shallows and spawning on Lake of the Pines, the bass are hitting really well again, and that's something that I'm looking forward to, is getting back out and doing a little bit of bass fishing. Again, think about the water clarity depending on what end of the lake you're at, and that will help you figure out what colors you need to be throwing as far as worms. Again, I'd try the top waters. You've also got the frogs, that type of stuff. The springtime frogs are out right now, so it's got the bass excited. As we keep marching into June, my fish forecast is going to be, when we start getting closer to the next full moon phase, which will be roughly around the 17th of June. If you guys love fishing at all like I do, you need to figure out a way to be off that weekend, maybe even a couple of days off. That's going to be some great fishing all around, whether you're fishing for bass, catfish, or crappie. Last week when we were doing the fishing report, I also mentioned Brandy Branch is another lake in case the wind's out of hand. And I did go fish Brandy Branch this last Monday. I went over there. It was extremely busy being the holiday. I took a couple of hand-tied worms with me, and I caught several using the fly rod and these little worms. These little worms, you can find them at 3F Bait Shop, which is in Karnak on your way to Caddo Lake. For you guys that are on the Texas side, I know they're carrying them, but that's another little jig that's working really well this time of year for your perch, your catfish, any of that kind of stuff that's eating worms. These are a great alternative to fishing with worms. Based on the amount of questions that I got about Brandy Branch or Perky Lake, whatever you want to call it, last week's video, we are going to be doing a deep dive into Perky Lake. Look for that video to come out in the next month or so. Take the opportunity right now to subscribe to our channel just so that you don't miss that video. I know we're going to be doing some deep dives into some of the other lakes, and we're also going to be doing a lot more on Lake of the Pines and Caddo and showing you guys better places to go, especially if you're new to the area. Again, we appreciate your likes, comments, and subscribes. We wouldn't be doing this without you. May y'all have a blessed week, and let's get out and make something happen.